2 officers are in hospital tonight after being stabbed early this morning on Bayfield Street in Barrie.
He wouldn't stop. He stabbed the one officer across his neck.
Wow. The amount of force that had to be inflicted to cause this was incredible.
The first unit's on scene. Let's get this road blocked off.
Things like this don't happen every day, and I'm glad they don't. But the reality is that they do happen.
That's an additional ambulance rolling, please.
You need to be prepared.
The survival mindset, I would tell you, is a way of life. You don't just suddenly have it. You live it. And it's all revolving around the same thing as getting our mind ready for the moment of truth.
Survival mindset, warrior mindset, the whole aspect is to make better decisions under stress.
Until the rounds come down on you, you don't know if you're going to stand up in the foxhole and return fire or crouch down in the bottom and take cover. And you might believe you'll stand, and you probably will, but you don't know until it happens.
It's fight or flight, and us as officers are expected to fight. You know, when everyone is running away from a situation, we're running towards the situation.
You can be very well trained, you know, technically and physically, very competent, but can you pull it all together in the minutes that you're required to?
Those who embrace this sheepdog model, this protector model, are, number one, obviously better physically prepared should it happen, but number two, they're better psychologically prepared. You see, the opposite of a combat mindset, survival mindset, is denial. If you think the bad man's never going to come, then why do you have to bother with all these things?
All units heading to Bayfield Street, shots fired. PC Edgar, PC Spears have been stabbed.
I know for the most part, that quote, "This will never happen to me," that might as well have been tattooed on my forehead, because there's no way I thought in a million years I would be going through that.
Things like this don't happen every day, and I'm glad they don't. But the reality is that they do happen.
Dozens of witnesses saw what happened this morning and were stunned by what they saw.
That was like, it completely caught me off guard. I don't even know what to say right now.
This male seemed a little out of sorts, a little out of place. He was acting very erratic.
And he was just flailing his arms, screaming, just not making any sense at all. You could tell something was wrong with him.
He's claiming that I have his papers. He's very adamant and upset that you have my papers, I want my papers back. I felt he was either suffering from some sort of mental illness or possibly under the influence of alcohol or drugs.
Spears was trying to calm him down, saying stuff like, "Sir, we just want to help you. We're not here to harm you in any way."
So he provides his name and date of birth, which I quickly scratch onto a contact card and pass off to my partner so I can still keep eyes on this individual.
When he gave me the contact paper with the guy's name on it, I looked down at it real briefly and reached up to my radio to call in 1029 on him.
And at that instant, the male, I can see, gets a little hinky, a little agitated. My concern was his safety. I don't want him running for traffic, and I needed to get him some medical help. So that's why I made the decision to go hands-on.
I touched my radio, looked up, and I just saw the male swing and hit Clay in the left side of the head.
I knew instantly that I had been stabbed. Didn't feel the knife, almost felt like a needle prick, just like a sharp pinch. And then what I felt was his fist hitting my chin.
From my vantage point where I was standing, I thought he got punched in the head.
As I'm feeling around, I can feel blood. I look down, my vest is covered in blood. I can feel it just pouring out of my neck. My first thought is I just hope that he hasn't severed the jugular completely, or I've got about 2.5, 3 minutes.
As soon as I saw him hit him, I ran at the male, tackled him, and as soon as I landed on top of him, I pushed off of him with my left arm.
Thankfully, my partner didn't hesitate. He was right on the guy, like white on rice, and which in hindsight gave me that extra second to gather myself, collect my thoughts, and go, okay, now what do I do?
I looked down, it's middle of summer, so I'm wearing short sleeves, and my entire left arm was just drenched in blood, and I could see out of the corner of my eye, I could see blood gushing out.
It appeared that the guy had ran the knife right across his neck. So I'm now in fear that, I'm going to unfortunately watch my partner pass on right here in front of me.
403, K2 EMS. Both Edgar and I have been stabbed.
The next thing I hear is Dave reacting to his injury. So I turn around, I see Dave get up off the individual whom he just tackled, and I look at Dave, and he's bleeding profusely.
I knew he got me with something, so quickly disengaged from him.
With my fingers, applying pressure, I'm drawing my firearm because the male is still standing with the knife in hand in an aggressive manner, and he's actually starting to aggress towards Dave.
Got about 5 or 6 feet from him when I heard pop, pop.
I shot 4 rounds and basically reassessed the situation and waiting for this guy to fall down, and he didn't.
I fired maybe 5 rounds at him as well. The shots did nothing to him. He just continued to walk northbound Bayfield Street with a large buck knife in his hand.
Dave passes me in front of me and continues northbound up Bayfield Street following this individual.
It didn't feel like it, but I went 140 yards screaming at this guy at the top of my lungs to the point where I started seeing spots in my vision.
I'm looking at the situation. The male's already 35, 40 feet away and progressing north. Now I have no shot. There's parked cars and there's a grocery store behind him.
In a lethal situation like that, it was difficult because I had so many aspects in terms of busiest street in our city. On a Sunday morning during the summer, it was packed. It was a tactical nightmare.
So I holstered my sidearm, and the first thought that came to my head was, it's really hit the fan, and no one knows it but Dave and I.
I had to think of a lot of things, but the first thing on my head was, I'm bleeding out, and I'm going to need to solve this real fast before he gets my gun.
Knowing that I potentially have maybe 2 or 3 minutes, maybe less minutes to live, I want to do the best I can with those couple minutes to ensure help gets here and ensure that maybe me and Dave can make it through this.
And I drew an invisible line in the sand, and I was screaming at him to get on the ground, drop his weapon, and I knew, and I believe he knew, that if he crossed that line, he was going to get shot.
The second officer was pursuing the suspect with his weapon drawn, ordering him to go down, down, drop the knife, down, down.
They completely told him to stop so many times, and he wouldn't.
And he crossed that line. I had to put an end to it before I lost consciousness.
All units heading to Bayfield Street, shots fired.
He dropped, and then I reloaded my mag, and then I couldn't hang on anymore, and I couldn't stand.
The policeman went right down to the ground, tried to get back up again, and went down again.
Edgar's down in front of Toby.
At that moment, I thought Dave was cooked. I really did. I thought, I'm going to watch Dave die here on the street.
403, I need an EMS ambulance, Bayfield Street right now.
We had both lost approximately half our blood.
That's one. Let's get some other units here. I don't care what they're doing. They can come here.
Other units got to the scene. Constable Cassidy held my neck together, and we waited for an ambulance.
I got Spears. I'm going to that hospital to notify him.
10.48.
It was 2 very serious stab wounds. My surgeon wouldn't tell me how many stitches he gave me. He said there's some things you don't need to know.
Even though complacency does exist with some officers, I think the more in-depth training that we're providing across the province is helping officers understand that complacency does in fact kill and can kill. And the feedback that we get once they've been out in the field, because that's where the real test is that their training is what helps save them in a critical situation.
The one thing that bothered me during all of this is I would turn on the news and hear young guys that have just come out of their training, and it almost seemed like it was bad that happened. I got to tell you, it's probably a good thing, is that they were physically fit and they were trained and they weren't complacent.
I wouldn't say it was because of my training if it wasn't, and that's exactly one of the reasons Dave and I survived.
What was found in a study that was done with Olympic athletes that won medals was that the peak performers, what separated them, the ones that won, maybe others were expected to win and didn't, but the ones that won, they have a tremendous balance between physical, technical, and mental readiness.
First and foremost, the most important thing for them is to keep themselves healthy and fit. Physical fitness, we have found a direct correlation to physically fit officers and performance.
Physical fitness announces something when you walk into a room. Look at that officer. Tall, short, physically fit. I would not want to deal with them. They look like they know what they're doing.
The FBI study of officers murdered. They interviewed the killers. And the killers told them, well, we're looking for a fat, dumpy cop, his uniform's wrinkled, and, they're looking for the weak link. They're not looking for the stud. One guy talked about how, he was thinking about killing cops, and this cop had a uniform and a marksmanship badge, and he said, I don't want to take this guy on. And he kept on speeding, and he found another cop. I'll take this one.
Are you up to the challenge? Are you ready to go for a minute and a half? Can you think of an active struggle with a person stronger than you, where you can smell the sweat on their person, you can smell their breath, you can feel the vascularness of their muscles as they close around you? What are you going to do? You're 27 to 30 pounds heavier, depending how much kit you carry. It's going to make a difference. The more physically fit we are, the more psychologically prepared we are, the better the package we have.
Take full advantage of any opportunity you have to train or become a little more physically fit. And just the reason being, specifically, my surgeon told me that if I had been not as physically fit and a little older, chances are that I probably wouldn't have survived my injury.
They're muscular guys and they're fit. And that's certainly what's helped them. I remember stitching together all the muscles in David's neck, and I just went, geez, he's got more muscles in his neck than I do everywhere.
How long can I sustain myself till my platoon comes through that door and carries me out? That's what I need to know. And if it means one less Twinkie into this glorious temple that I call my body, then so be it. If it means a little bit more cardio, so be it.
"42 seconds changed my life. But I was good to go when it happened. I always ask my partners that night, are you good to go in case anything happens? We joke about it, and the delivery is different, but essentially the message is there. Are you ready to go?
It can happen your first day on the job, or your last day before retirement. You can walk into something and it goes sideways real quick.
And the only way you can be prepared for that is to go over the rules and your training and live it. Be prepared. Be aware.
Over 40% of readiness comes from mental, that judgment, that being able to focus, handling distractions. The best people identify that as a significant component of being ready and having and impacting the final outcome of their call, of the action, the task that they were doing.
Mental preparedness is the one thing that every police officer has control over, and that means role-playing for the worst scenario. If I find myself in this scenario, what am I going to do?
And if you can visualize how it would feel, the amount of stress it would be to be in that situation and how you would react, that's part of the battle.
And you're mentally prepared when hand hits door for the knock. And you hope that it's the kind, gentle person who opens the door. But you're prepared for the biker or the MHA or the violent person because you thought that this could happen.
Just walk in every situation with your head up and your eyes open and you know, visualize and prepare for the worst, just in case.
If we prepare for the worst and it doesn't happen, it is a better day than being prepared for the least and that happening.
An old professor of mine always told me, he says, load for bear. And I never used to know what that meant. And the big thing for us is when we ran into problems is that we were ready for it. We knew what to do. We know what the second, the third, the fourth step was.
Are you comfortable and competent with your equipment? Do you know the limitations of you and your equipment?
You have to be prepared to perform well and perform precisely in a situation where your adrenaline's very high and you're not breathing normally like you would be at the shooting range.
In the middle of a gunfight, your weapon's jammed. Try to clear it once, you gotta keep putting rounds down range. You've gotta be doing this. You gotta win the firefight. I can't win it, transition to my secondary weapon system. I don't have time. It has to be an automatic, instantaneous reaction. Why? If I can't do it, I die.
I know from training guys in the military, they talk about muscle memory and even training your brain to think the same way all the time so that that's your natural reaction.
The one thing I always did when I loaded my weapon at the beginning of shift and after shift was draw my firearm as quickly as I could. You know, it's a small training thing, but that night it made the difference of, you know, returning fire quickly and returning fire slowly.
Every night before I went to bed, it takes 5 minutes, and I do 50 draws. And the reason being, I have a leather holster, so I wanted to get it broke in and get the snaps all broke in. And when I was in this situation, forced to retrieve my firearm, I don't even remember hitting the snaps. I don't remember anything. It was just the gun was out and it was there.